Joining us, we have a perfect political panel steeped in the ways of Capitol Hill on both sides of the aisle. Jim Kessler is back with us, Executive Vice President for Policy at Third Way, our Democratic strategist, alongside Republican strategist Sarah Chamberlain, of course, President CEO of the Republican Main Street Partnership. It's great to have both of you here. John Thune just put the ball in Chuck Schumer's court, so I guess I'll start with a Schumer veteran. You know the minority leader better than most Americans. He says Democrats are not going to be here to support Republicans. Are we really going to shut down?
I think we will. I think Democrats do not want to feel like they've been played. Republicans passed a bill in the House without any Democratic input. They passed it. They left for spring break. They're down in Gainesville partying or wherever they're going. And Democrats are saying, like, we want to be part of this. Let's negotiate. Let's do it the way it's been done in the past. I think we have a shutdown.
Well, I guess the question for me, Jim, is that this shutdown isn't necessarily like other shutdowns we will have experienced in years past, in that it's coming against the backdrop of Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency actively trying to cull the federal workforce. If you furlough a bunch of people, does it not make that job easier? Isn't that what they're risking?
Well, I do think Musk is a backdrop on this because there's less distrust between Democrats and Republicans on government funding, because there's also a view among Democrats. It's like, okay, you sign a bill. Is it really going to be adhered to, or are they going to sort of go outside the law and do what Elon Musk does? So I think Musk hurts the situation, doesn't help the situation.
All right, Sarah, I don't know if you think this is really going to happen, but if we shut down, how do we ever reopen? And if we do reopen, will it be the federal government as we know it?
I absolutely have no idea.
Wow.
I don't even know how we got in this spot. I mean, Chuck Schumer back in September, when, of course, President Biden was the president and Kamala Harris was running, he said a government shutdown would hurt the American people, the average American person. So now that President Trump is in charge, it's okay to shut the government down. And by the way, the members are not on spring break. Actually, the Democrats are away for 3 days on their break. But the reality is...
Leesburg, Virginia.
They're still away. They're not in D.C. But the reality is, like, what are we doing? And it just gives President Trump even more power. And I realize it was only one, but one Democrat did join with the Republicans in the House to pass the bill. And from most people's perspective, the bill is pretty clean. There's some funding for rural hospitals and medicine, but it's not a bad bill. So I'm really stuck. And that's why I said a couple weeks ago, I'm like, oh, I'm 100% that this would pass, because I thought it would be the Republicans.
The countdown clock really didn't start going up until the last 24 hours since Chuck Schumer said this, right? I mean, that's what changed the story.
Yeah, well, and to your point, on one Democrat in the House voting for it, Congressman Jared Golden of Maine, obviously more of a moderate, someone who's in a very unique district in terms of the competitiveness landscape. In the Senate, we have John Fetterman, who has said he won't vote to shut the government down. But literally, who else should we be watching on this, Jim?
Yeah, I think it's folks that are up like John Ossoff. But, you know, look, I want to get back to Sarah's point. Like, this bill is not far off to something that Democrats and Republicans could both agree to. And it was a huge wasted opportunity by Mike Johnson not inviting Democrats in at all, because the differences aren't huge. And you could probably spend 5 or 6 days hammering them out and getting a deal that, you know, would get a lot more support, but it would lose some members of the Freedom Caucus. And I think Mike Johnson made a choice like, I don't want to do that, and I'm just going to rely on the Senate Democrats to bail me out. And Senate Democrats are saying, no, thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, we close the government down. What's the off-ramp? How does that work? Could this be a record-long shutdown? Because your Speaker of the House wants to get busy on a reconciliation bill, and there's not going to be much appetite for this wait.
I don't know how it gets reopened, to be honest with you. I mean, because nobody saw this coming, or I would have told you last time I was here, nobody saw that Chuck Schumer would do this and really be willing to take the blame for shutting down the government when he didn't bring any appropriation bills to the floor all the time last year. So, like, the House passed some of the appropriations bills, the Senate did not. Now he's trying to do it in 30 days if you do a short-term CR. So it's a mess, but if it closes down, I don't know how long before it reopens, but it does put a lot more power where the Democrats, I would assume, would not want it, which is where President Trump sits. So, I mean, it really empowers him. Yeah, and you're right, with the federal employees, I mean, they're all furloughed.
Well,
it's going to be a mess, and it could be a long-term mess.
Well, and so that could be one headache that the district, us in the bubble, would be experiencing. But to the point that Jim was making about things that Democrats might want changed, they also have been upset about the idea that this strips $1 billion in funding away from D.C., funding that is D.C.'s to spend. It is technically their money. This is where members of the Main Street caucus have their staff living in large parts there. Right. Why was this included? Because
they're looking to make some changes. Obviously, we have a security problem here. A lot of the Main Street.
So pulling funding away from police is the
they're working. They want to work with the mayor to reallocate the funding and change it. This was a message. This is definitely a message to her. But it is not safe. We've had members of Congress attacked. We've had staffers attacked. I mean,
and, I just have to. I've lived in D.C. for 36 years. Okay. And the narrative that this city is in chaos and out of control, like, I'm just tired of it. The reason why that $1 billion is not in the CR, it was a mistake. They just made an accidental mistake on that. And now they are trying to reverse engineer and saying there's some sort of reason. And that's why Democrats should have been brought into this process here, because I'm not saying a ton of Democrats would have voted for it, but enough would have voted for it. There are mistakes in this bill because it was rushed through and you didn't have the oversight of both parties.
So that wasn't some sort of punitive measure to
no,
penalize
it was a
the
mistake.
District of Columbia.
Does
it prompt
accident.
a recession in the capital city and the surrounding area? That's what a lot of people are saying.
Yes, absolutely a recession. In D.C. and in the DMV. I mean, we're already starting a recession. So, and look, for people, maybe you don't care about a D.C. recession. We buy a lot of our products in other places of the world. We buy things online, so it matters.
Well, and obviously the economic concern goes outside of D.C. when we're talking about policies like tariffs, as we spent a lot of time here on Balance of Power discussing. Sarah, we're certainly seeing it in polling as well, that Americans think that Donald Trump might be doing some damage to the economy with policies like this. What are members hearing at home in their districts about trade policy specifically?
They're getting a lot of questions back home. They are back home working now. They didn't go on vacation. They're actually home. And they're hearing that. They're still hearing more, though, on Elon Musk's situation than the tariffs. They think President Trump, like he's done before, he rolls them out, then he rolls them back. So they're watching that, but they're really concerned about what Elon Musk is doing still. It might change next week, but that's really where the focus is right now.
All right, Sarah Chamberlain and Jim Kessler with us.
They both agree we're shutting down.
On the eve of a potential shutdown.
Wow.
Thank you both so much for joining us. This is Bloomberg.